Professor Johnson Nyako Bwampong, as he confirms receiving dismissal letter from the council chairman.
This matter is not put on this platform. There is the Select Committee on Education, and I think that the appropriate forum should be the committee summoning the minister for the minister to provide responses.
Can the Vice Chancellor confirm the Council Chair has written to the Vice Chancellor to resign? Is that factual? This one is going to the VC. Is it factual that the Council Chair has written to you to resign?
Honorable Chair, it's a fact.
Tonight, we will bring you some updates from the Public Accounts Committee. Now, chaos and drama greets veterans in Parliament of the Supreme Court Justice nominees as minority once again scuttle the process, citing constitutional breaches.
If you are trying to be a former friend, that's okay. But I shall remain a good friend.
Within the short period that we left here, you were able to, in fact, you were with us even in the room after a point in time. You were able to put together this. This is unacceptable. This is scandalous, unacceptable. A serious committee of parliament, and you read something to us that is supposed to be coming from you. I feel scandalized.
Well, after the back and forth, the nominees finally had their day. Now, the Kolobu Teaching Hospital assures renal patients of full operations soon as they blame the delay on failure to clear essential consumables from the ports.
The inpatient services still continue, and at the Cardiac Thoracic Center, they are still running their outpatient service. It's the current that we are hoping to open up the rest of the patients who do their dialysis at. Yeah, it's about clearing the consumables at the port.
Meanwhile, Renal Patients Association says nothing was communicated to them about the delay.
We were not told anything. Nothing was told. They never told us anything. Personally, about 2 weeks ago, I went for my session. I'm supposed to do it on Friday, but I went on Wednesday because I was traveling to Kumasi. I was in Kumasi, and then my people called me that they've not been called for their session.
And later in this bulletin on the campaign trail, we sit with the NPP's parliamentary candidate for the Kon Katamanso constituency, William Ofusua-Sante, and also put spotlight on the no-fees stress policy announced by the NDC at its youth manifesto launch yesterday.
I'll say it's thoughtful, but yet again, the caveat is that we don't need to implement this on a wholesale note.
Something of this sort is being carried out. I think the student front could have been consulted so that at a point we could also tender in our recommendations and also questions.
There are details of these and many other stories coming up in this broadcast. Do stay.
Starr News is coming to you live on Ultimate 106.9 FM in Kumasi, Empire 102.7 FM in Takrady, Cool 103.5 FM in Ho, Rage and Might FM in Tamale, Somali FM in Wa, My Star Radio in the USA. Also live on Facebook on Starr 103.5 FM and on starfm.com.gh around the world. This is Starr 103.5 FM.
Thank you for choosing us this evening. The bulletin is streaming live on our Facebook platform at Starr FM. Remember to join us with your thoughts and comments. Now, the Ministry of Education has directed the Education Committee of Parliament to resolve an impasse between the Governing Council of the University of Cape Coast and the Vice Chancellor, Professor Johnson Nyako Bwampong. This comes after the Governing Council of the University terminated the appointment of Professor Johnson Nyako Bwampong. Management of the university contended that the decision was unilaterally taken by the chairman of the university's council without their knowledge. You will recall that the University Teachers Association of Ghana, the UCC chapter, kicked against the decision, adding it will not recognize the termination of Professor Johnson Nyako Bwampong's appointment as Vice Chancellor. But appearing before the Public Accounts Committee, Deputy Education Minister and MP for Kwadaso, Professor Kingsley Nyako said the impasse will be handled by the Education Committee of Parliament. Here are excerpts.
That will be all for you, but we have some public interest questions for the university. Honorable Apak,
Grateful, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this is just to seek clarification. The issue of the leadership of the University of Cape Coast was in the public space. There was a brouhaha about the tenure of the Vice Chancellor. The question I want to ask is, what steps are being taken, or what steps have been taken to resolve what in the media space came across as a leadership crisis? I think I will direct this to the minister.
As far as the ministry is concerned, my minister is not here. I'm standing in for him. With respect, I would suggest that this matter is not put on this platform. There is the Select Committee on Education, and I think that the appropriate forum should be the committee summoning the minister for the minister to provide responses. With all due respect, Mr. Chair, this will be my position on the matter. Thank you.
Honorable Deputy Minister, the member who asked a question actually consulted me, and I've granted the permission for him to ask. My reason is that this is something which is already in the public domain. It's out there in the media being discussed. This is an opportunity for the ministry or for the university to say something about it. If you want to miss this opportunity and for it to be discussed further in the media, that can provide some damage to somebody.
Mr. Chair,
okay.
I trust your judgment, and I know the experience you have when it comes to parliamentary work. Since I've been in this house, some of these issues, before they are discussed, and as you said, this is the public domain. Parliamentary parties, as I know, the person to respond at least must be given some space to come with further and better particulars. I'm standing in for the minister who is outside the jurisdiction. I'm not clothed with the power to effectively deal with the matters. That's why I'm pleading with Commander Park, my former colleague on the Education Committee of the House, that this can be played before the minister, and he will be able to provide all the information that he needs. So with respect, let us follow this part. Thank you.
Well, the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast, Professor Johnson Nyako Buampong, subsequently confirmed the dismissal letter was signed by the chairman of the council. Here are excerpts.
All right. If I understand you, because you are not the substantive minister, probably you don't have the information on this. So I can spare you on that by saying that because you don't have the requisite information, it will be difficult for you to respond to this matter on what the ministry is doing in resolving this matter. But can the Vice Chancellor confirm to us that the board chairman wrote a letter directing the VC to resign? University Council, the council chair, has written to the Vice Chancellor to resign. Is that factual? This one is going to the VC. Is it factual that the council chair has written to you to resign?
Honorable Chair, it's a fact.
All right. Honorable Park.
I appreciate the response of the minister. And I'm also aware that GTEC, the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, has also indicated that the Vice Chancellor should stay put. And this is why we need to hear from the sector minister. But once you've pleaded for time to allow for the minister himself to avail himself to resolve the matter, I believe Chairman's direction is in order, because the issue must be resolved somewhat.
Chair, with respect, in doing so, there are three stakeholders in this whole matter. So you have GTEC, you have the ministry, and also the institution can also avail themselves for us to deal with the matter effectively. Thank you.
Well, that was the Vice Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast and also the Deputy Education Minister. Let's go over the phone lines and have a conversation on this development. And joining us is the MP for Busa South, Dr. Clement Apak. Thank you very much for your time, sir, this evening.
Yes, good evening to you and good evening to our listeners.
Were you satisfied by the answers given by the Minister and the Vice Chancellor?
Well, the short answer is no.
And why is that?
I wasn't satisfied at all. Because there is an impasse from the information available to us in the public domain. And I'll say the public domain because this has not come formally to the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education, which I sit on. We had information as confirmed by the Vice Chancellor that he had been written to by the chair of the University Council, asking him to step aside. We later got information to the effect that the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, which is the government agency under the Ministry of Education, with oversight responsibilities with regards to tertiary education, then instructed the Vice Chancellor to stay put. So clearly, it is obvious that one of the premier universities of our republic, the University of Cape Coast, is suffering a leadership crisis. Because anyone who knows the way universities function would acknowledge the fact that the council must always work with the Vice Chancellor to ensure that the institution is able to meet its mandate and to undertake its obligations. So I thought that since this issue has been in the public domain for close to a week, by now, the minister would have given us information to the effect that the issue has been resolved, or to tell us the steps that the ministry is taking towards the resolution of this leadership crisis. Unfortunately, the minister who appeared before the Public Accounts Committee told the committee that he is a deputy minister. He was not seized with authority to make any pronouncements on the matter. And he indicated that the minister was out of the jurisdiction, and therefore we ought to wait for his return, and perhaps we will then hear what is being done to put this matter to rest. So I wasn't satisfied at all. I think the issue has lingered on beyond what I would expect. You don't wait. You don't wait in matters of this nature to step in as a sector minister to ensure that such a matter is resolved as soon as possible, because it has implications for the well-being of the institution, its management, and even matters to do with its funding.
Right, Dr. Apak. Now, will you summon the minister for further questioning in Parliament?
Yes, in fact, I would have to do that because I only took advantage of my membership of the Education Committee as well as the Public Accounts Committee. And so I have to seek the leave of the chair of the Public Accounts Committee. And because of my role on the Education Committee, he granted the permission to ask the question. But also proceedings, we have noticed that the Deputy Minister, who himself, up until now, was a member of the Education Committee, made the case that the right forum for me to have raised this matter would have been through of Parliament. Consequently, I would have to raise this matter with the rest of the leadership of the committee so that we can get the minister to step in and put to what is an unhealthy development on the campus of the University of Cape Coast.
Right. Now, during your engagement earlier today, did you detect any issue of any form of interference, reason for which the Vice Chancellor's appointment was terminated?
No, we were not given any details, and that is why I think it is prudent for us to engage the minister. Because obviously, there has to be a reason that would have warranted the council chair to make that request of the Vice Chancellor. But at the same time, GTEC is the agency under the ministry. So whatever reason we have prompted the council chair to give the directive that he gave seems not to have sat well with GTEC, because from our own sources, I am aware that GTEC also then stepped in and instructed that the Vice Chancellor should stay put, not move an inch. So the issue at this point is not only confusing, but it is murky. So no matter how you look at it, it is a matter that ought to be resolved as soon as possible, because we are looking at the bigger interest of the institution, its ability to execute its mandate, and to meet its obligations to the good citizens of the Republic. And so we are looking forward to engaging the minister and getting to know the reasons why the council chair would have given the directive and why, ostensibly, GTEC has rejected the directive given by the council chair.
Right. So going forward, how are you as a committee going to ensure that such a development does not repeat itself in the other tertiary institutions?
Well, I believe when we get to hear the details about why and what fomented the current situation, as human as we are, we can all learn from that. And that then will become a guide for us to advise and perhaps maybe look at some policy changes, and if we have to perhaps advocate for changes in some laws or aspects of the university statutes, then we can work on that in collaboration with the ministry and the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission. So for now, it will be difficult to offer any best practices going forward, since we don't know the factors that precipitated the current situation.
Dr. Park, thank you very much for your time. He's a member of the Public Accounts Committee and MP for Busa South, Dr. Clement Apak. Well, the Vice Chancellor of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Professor Rita Kosia-Dixon, also appeared before the committee. Let's take a listen to what ensued.
As the earlier university indicated, this seems to be occurring all the time. It may not be a huge percentage, but it should be a matter of concern to management that something must be done in order to get our lecturers who get either sponsored and some of them paid salaries to go for further studies with the hope and expectation that they come back, who just refuse completely to come back, not because of any other situation like death or illness or what have you. They just decide to continue elsewhere, not even in the same country. If they come back and go to another university, it's fine enough, but that's not the case here. So have you received any information from the police, the Interpol that you reported to?
No, please, Honorable Chair.
Well, so you may have to do some further follow-up to see if, and you should aid them with the information you have on these persons. At least the last information you had on them as a university will help the police in doing their work. Auditors, I don't know whether to come back to you again, because what you reported is what exactly they've told us, beyond that of Dr. Solomon Sapon. So are you now aware that the balance of the 75,850 have been paid to the account you provided?
Honorable Chair, The only amount we can confirm in respect of Dr. Solomon Sapo Merepa is an amount of 20,352 per our last update. So if there has been further recovery, they would have to provide that information.
Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. In fact, all the evidence of payment, we've given that one to our auditor, not the immediate auditor, Mr. Donadi, and then we have copies also in the document that was submitted, the receipt, everything here. Thank you very much.
Honorable Chair, your kind permission, including the issues on the hostels as well, where the auditor said he hadn't. We've given everything as it stands today to them.
Madam, I'm not surprised you are having issues with Eric Andre because you gave him steady leave. You didn't get him to sign any guarantor agreement. And he knew it. He didn't sign one. So was our Esiedu Kwating. If you didn't ask these people to sign any guarantor agreement, when they go, they won't come. Even those who sign it are not coming. So with Eric Andre, you've written several letters. He's not responding because he knows what he's doing. It's the school's fault.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. In fact, with the two of them, the information that we got was that at the time of the auditing, there were challenges as to locating the copies of the guarantors forms that they signed. But it's a policy. It's a policy by the university where you will have to sign.
You just heard Professor Rita Akosua-Dixon, the Vice-Chancellor of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Let's still stay on education this evening, and concerns have been raised by students offering sandwich programs at the University of Cape Coast Institute of Education, as the students have been denied access to write their exams because apparently they owe some school fees. Now, according to the national president for the Coalition of Sandwich Students at the Institute of Education, who spoke to Starr News earlier, consultations and meetings have been held to solve this issue, but students have expressed their frustrations about the issue because they do not know when they will be allowed to sit for their exams. Let's have a conversation on this development. And Joseph Nia J. Okpoti is the national president for the Coalition of Sandwich Students at the Institute of Education, UCC, and he joins me for a conversation on this. Thank you very much for your time this evening, Joseph. Now, as the national president responsible for students in the institution, are you aware of these developments?
Okay, good evening, Starr FM, and then good evening to all your lovely listeners. I'm so much grateful to be given this opportunity to have interaction on behalf of my people. To be precise, that the Coalition of Sandwich Students, Institute of Education, and UCC, to be precise. Back to what you just asked me, yes, I am fully aware of the situation.
What led to that?
Okay, so if you do have time, I can give you a thorough, or I can walk you through what is actually happening so that we don't pick what is happening out of context. So if you do have time and you can permit me, then I would respond in that ordeal.
Well, walk us through as briefly as you can.
Okay, so, UCC has a sandwich, which we have the on-campus and then the off-campus. We happen to be pursuing the off-campus, whereby it is strictly fee-paying. And of course, all universities in Ghana do run sandwich, for which none of them, they do have facilities that students are going to be fed and then to be accommodated. But then again, when you come to our side, we do have this kind of thing at our fingertips. Yes, of course, what is happening currently is that majority of my people haven't been able to honor their financial obligations, that's their obligation right, which has led to this happening. Of course, when school resumed, that is 27th of July, before my constituents were supposed to report to school, they were supposed to have paid their fees, but they weren't able to do that. the leadership, we came into agreement. We spoke with management.
Joseph, how many of these students are we talking about?
We are talking about 6,000 students plus.
Over 6,000 students
Yes, please.
refused to or were unable to pay their fees.
No, please. So just as I said earlier on, I was trying to make you understand what is actually happening. So if you permit me, I will still engage you.
Absolutely.
Okay. So they have had their first semester, second semester, and then third semester, of which currently we are having our fourth semester. Of course, some did pay, some also weren't able to pay. That is, UCC has got a flexible way of paying fees, in the sense that when you come to campus, you make a part payment of your admission fee, you get your index number, and then you are good to go. But then again, because there is no other form of measures put in place that students are supposed to, under their fundamental right by probably pay their fees, most often they do owe. So in that order, what is happening currently is that most students who were not able to pay their fees, of course, the leadership took it upon itself to engage management. At first, what it said is that if you don't pay your fees, you can't write your exams. Upon the engagement, they had to decline that. They came to us that, okay, because you are owing a huge sum of money, for which that same money are the ones that are used to pay your tutors and lecturers, then it means that, okay, let's put it at a bill, 2,000. Of course, we relayed it to our consulate. Now, what we found out was that in this difficult time of ours, which you and I are aware, the student body made us to understand that they can't really put that. So then again, we met with management, and then they brought it to 3,000. And 3,000 is equivalent to a semester fee. Okay. Now, what is happening is that if you are able, or if you are owing less than 3,000 to this, you have the right to sit the exams and then write. But if you are owing more than 3,000 to this, then you won't be allowed to write the exams. So currently, what is happening at the other centers is what I have just informed you on.
So all the students who were not able to write their exams owed more than 3,000 Ghana cedis, if I understand you.
Yes. Currently, if a student is not able to write the exams, it means that the person has not been able to pay off his full debt, even the current semester fees.
Do you make, or does your institution make provision for late registration and associated penalties?
Can you please come again?
I'm asking if your institution makes arrangements for late registration and its associated penalties.
Oh, in fact, with the engagement that we had, concerning penalties, there's not much of a penalty there. But what is really happening is that it's probably I pay today and I'm supposed to be writing today. You see, it will not be reflected, but I am supposed to provide evidence to the invigilators so that they will allow me in. Okay? But what happens? The question is, what happens after I pay my fees? That is what we are looking at. The penalty was going to be that if you fail to pay your fees now, then it's going to become a receipt for you in future. That is what we are trying to engage management to see to it that they retract that very clause for which my people we are having a challenge with. But as we speak, we are trying to engage management on that.
So what are the available options for the students at the moment?
Available options.
Yes.
Currently, we wrote the paper. Those that had to borrow, they did borrow. The actual available way that you can really respond to, since it is a fee-paying institution, is that you borrow the money, you bring it, you write.
I see. Thank you very much. You just heard me engaging Joseph. He's the national president of the sandwich students at the University of Cape Coast.
Starr Today. First, fast, and credible.
You're still listening to Starr Today here on Starr FM. Let's move away from education and focus on some security issues. And a 20-year-old girl, Judith Kume's life was forever changed when she was arrested and interrogated by Superintendent Tutuwaa, a police officer who would later sever a part of her ear. Now, the incident occurred during an investigation into a robbery case in which Judith was falsely accused. Now, despite the trauma she endured, Judith, who was pregnant, found solace when her story went viral, sparking public outcry and prompting the Ghana Police Service to assure her of justice. However, Judith's hope for accountability seemed to be dwindling. Star News' Awisi Dede Jange has the details.
CID Tutuwaa came to pick me. CID Tutuwaa came to pick me up to the Committee 8 police station. They didn't tell me why I was being arrested or anything. He just came, Committee 8. He came and then handcuffed me before he moved me. He went to take the metal they use in their offices. Mostly, they used to create a hole in their books, placed it on my ear. He clipped it and then he pulled it. So at the end, he pulled it hard and then my ear cut off and then fell on the ground.
That was Judith Kuma sharing her ordeal with me earlier in March after her arrest and interrogation for her alleged involvement in a robbery. The Ghana Police Service reacted after Judith's story went viral, assuring the family of assisting in seeking justice to the latter.
They came, we met them, we talked to them. What they said was they want to plead. It's not that they've left the case, but the case, they are still holding the case and they'll seek for justice for my little girl. So I told them, if that is what they say, we are looking up to them because it is justice we want.
5 months down the lane, Superintendent Tutuwaa, the officer responsible for Judith's abuse, has allegedly been promoted at the Tema Regional Command despite assurances of a potential indictment. This development has left Judith, now 7 months pregnant, fearing that justice may never be served.
I never knew in Ghana if you'd, harm somebody to get to a higher level, because I would want for him to be brought before the court as I was brought before the court and for him to be dealt with. But then he has been rather promoted. He was at the Committee 8 police station, but now promoted to the regional's headquarters at Tema. He is there. He's working. I've seen him a couple of times. Even yesterday, I saw him in work. It's not easy. Being pregnant and then going to court wasn't an easy journey. I would have to miss my hospital dates just to be in court. Most of the times, we would be in court and I would be sick, really sick. I'd have headaches, pains, kickings. But then you can't do anything because if you miss one day, you'll be arrested and then you'll be given bench warrants.
Judith's lawyer, Andrew Karte, who took her case pro bono, vows to sue the police service and demand compensation for his client, decrying how the service has failed the young woman.
So what we intend to do is to sue for want of a better word, for compensation. To sue for compensation for all the physical, emotional, mental torture that she has been subjected to by reason of the acts of the police.
As Judith prepares to welcome her baby, she faces the daunting task of providing for her child while grappling with the psychological trauma of her ordeal.
Right now, I rely on my mom for everything. It's my mom. In this state that I am in right now, it's impossible for me to work until I deliver my baby girl. So after delivery, I'm open for work, and then, anything that would help to bring food on my table would be acceptable.
Judith's case continues to spark outrage, with many demanding justice for the young woman who has suffered so much. Will her voice be heard, Or will she become another statistic in the long history of police brutality and injustice? Only time will tell. For GH1 News, Abusi Dede Jange, Accra.
That was my colleague Awisi Dede Jange there with that report.
Starr Today. First, fast, and credible.
Let's do some health stories now. And the Kolebu Teaching Hospital has assured renal patients of full operations in the coming days. Now, the management of the hospital blame the delay in the clearance of some consumables from the port on some delays. Now, the Kolebu dialysis unit at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital has been closed for almost 2 weeks, forcing kidney failure patients to seek health care at private facilities and attending to inpatients yesterday. Although outpatients were expected to receive treatment today, our checks at the hospital revealed that the renal unit is yet to begin full operations as a result of limited availability of consumables. Here is the public relations officer for the hospital, Mustafa Salifu, speaking with my colleague, Awisi Dede Jange, on Star Midday News.
Yesterday, our team was at the port to take delivery of the consumables, but unfortunately, time ran out by the time that they got there. So this morning, they are back there to bring the container to the hospital so that we can resume the OPD services as well. But as I pointed out yesterday, the inpatient services still continue, and at the Cardiac Thoracic Center, they are still running their outpatient services. It's the cabin that we are hoping to open up the rest of the patients who do their dialysis at home.
So the issue right now, if I heard you right, the issue right now is about clearing the consumables at the port.
Yeah, it's about clearing the consumables at the port, and then that's what I explained. The logistics team is already at the port, trying to make sure that the container is loaded, and then they'll be headed to Kolebu from the port very soon. So as soon as that is done, the renal dialysis team will also start preparing the applications. They requested to have their labs done so that they can resume full operations from tomorrow.
In the meantime, are there any interim solutions or alternatives, arrangements made to accommodate the outpatients in the meantime until these goods are able to be cleared?
Yes, as I mentioned, we have about 2 dialysis units in the hospital. They have the main Kolebu at the cabin, and then also one at the National Cardiothoracic Center. So for now, we are.
Mustafa, I seem to be struggling to hear you. Can you reposition yourself, please? I didn't hear what you said at the latter part of the conversation.
Is it better now?
Hello, Mustafa.
Is it better now?
Yes, it's better. Carry on.
Yes, I am saying that yes, we have some solutions. At the moment, inpatient services are being provided, and then the emergencies are also being taken care of. And then those who require services, some of them were offloaded to the National Cardiothoracic Center, where we also have another renal dialysis unit. So that's the arrangement we have to deal with the caseload that we have. But we are hopeful that the container will reach Kolebu today, and then tomorrow we'll start engaging the outpatients and then resume normal operation.
So with specifics to the timelines, you're showing us by the end of today, these consumables will be released.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, the president of the Renal Patients Association, Major Bafo Kojoa, argued the hospital never communicated anything to them. He spoke with my colleague Lansan Papanko on Morning Star.
When you say open, fine, but it's not open to its full capacity. They are now doing the inpatient. The outpatients are supposed to start. I was told today,
right?
But I'm now getting ready to go to Kolebu to ascertain whether it has been fully. But it's open. They are doing the inpatient. Those on admission and the rest, they are doing them. But the outpatient, we've not yet been called to report.
Right. So, I mean, let's go back to the genesis of this. We all know the issues that the renal unit has been having, from the increment of the fees, to a plant shutdown and, all the problems that have come. But at every point in time, after a lot of advocacy, especially by you and the members of your association, there has been a solution. So this time around, what were you told was the reason why the renal unit was shut down? What explanations were given to you?
Honestly speaking, we were not told anything. Nothing was they never told us anything. Personally, about 2 weeks ago, I went for my session. I'm supposed to do it on Friday, but I went on Wednesday because I was traveling to Kumasi. I was in Kumasi, and then my people called me that they've not been called for their session. That was between the Sunday and the Monday. And I said, oh, how? So when I returned and I went there, they were not working. I tried to find out. Nobody was not giving me any explanation. So I said, well, let me give you the benefit of that. I was there for 1 week. And then the second week, nothing was coming. So when it hit the media, and I also came out because we were not informed about any reason why the unit was shut down.
Well, let's go to one of our headline stories. And there was chaos in Parliament earlier today as the minority once again compelled the Appointments Committee to pull the brakes on the vetting of two nominees of the Supreme Court justices, that is Tutuwaa Rosetta Benasco and Professor Richard Frimpong Opon, whose vetting was truncated on the last day of sitting, were ready to have their day today, only for Boko Central MP Mahama Yariga to question the legal basis for their nominations by President Akufo-Addo. Now, Mr. Yariga argued the president has no constitutional authority to increase the number of Supreme Court justices above 10. Mahama Yariga consequently moved a motion for the vetting to be halted. The development resulted in the suspension of proceedings after heated exchanges.
The President said he is making the appointment pursuant to his powers under Article 144. Article 144 says, a Chief Justice shall be appointed by the President acting in consultation with the Council of State and with the approval of Parliament. The other Supreme Court judges shall be appointed by the President acting on the advice of the Judicial Council in consultation with the Council of State and with the approval of Parliament. The offices of Supreme Court judges are created under Article 128 of the Constitution. And this is what it says. The Supreme Court shall consist of the Chief Justice and not less than 9 other justices of the Supreme Court. The Chief Justice and not less than 9 other justices of the Supreme Court. Now, as we speak, we have 15 justices on the Supreme Court. We're told that one is retiring, but we have 15 justices of the Supreme Court. It means that we have 9 plus the Chief Justice making 10 and an additional 5, making it 15. This letter states that 2 of the 15 are about to retire, and the President is seeking to make early arrangements to make sure that there's no vacuum when the 2 do retire. One has retired already, the other is about to retire. The legal issue that I'm raising before this committee, which should be captured in our report for discussion, is this. Whereas the Constitution in Article 144 says the President shall appoint the justices, there is nowhere in this Constitution that the President is given the power to increase the number beyond the 9 plus 1. Nowhere. And I challenge anybody in this room to show me any provision in this Constitution that says that even though Article 1281 says 9 plus Chief Justice at the minimum, and you don't have an upper ceiling, that the person to decide that upper ceiling is the President. Who says the person to decide that upper ceiling is the President? Who? To show me which provision.
Whilst at the hearing, the chairperson for the committee, Patricia Appiagyei, ruled against the minority's motion without putting it to a vote. This development further threw the hearing into chaos, with the minority insisting the exercise could not continue unless the votes were taken. Minority Chief Whip Governs Kwame Agboja accused the committee chair, Patricia Appiagyei, of plagiarizing her ruling after discovering a journalist had posted the exact rendition on social media even before she read it out at the hearing.
Chief Whip. But he's spoken even longer than everybody.
Chief Whip, I'm begging you.
I mean, how can you?
Honorable,
why do you grant him
Chief
that?
Whip,
Because I have a serious matter to raise.
Chief Whip,
yes.
I am begging you. You know I always beg you. You know how I always beg you because your views have always been very superior. You know the difficulty I find myself. You know, only yesterday you were my best friend. If you are trying to be a former friend, that's okay. But I shall remain a good friend. You know, and I know that my namesake would have to come to my rescue, and he will come to my rescue. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes,
no, my namesake is Honorable Atu.
Leader, I want to raise a very serious issue. The ruling you read, I just noticed that this ruling was posted on a Facebook page of a known journalist an hour ago. And I can tender this for the sake of the protection of the person. It will be extremely damning that the ruling you have given did not come from you, because you remember I made a comment that within the short period that we left here, you were able to, in fact, you were with us in the room after a point in time, you were able to put together this very comprehensive rule. I can read out what is on the social media page of the journalist, if you want me to. Do you want me to read it? This is unacceptable. This is scandalous. Unacceptable. A serious committee of parliament, and you read something to us that is supposed to be coming from you. I feel scandalized.
Now, after numerous unsuccessful attempts by the majority leader, Alexander Kwame Appiagyei, to persuade the NDC MPs to let things slide, the votes were taken after the Efutu MP prayed the chair to cede to the demand of the minority with 7 votes, each for both sides. The developments per the standing orders of parliament meant that the motion of the minority for the vetting to be halted had been lost. This paved the way for the first nominee, Sophia Rosetta Benasco, who had been seated the entire time watching the drama unfold, to finally be allowed to answer questions from the members of the committee.
I've been denied my right here.
No, you don't have any right.
No one is defending my right here.
No.
I have a right as a member of the Judiciary Committee to vote on this matter. I have a right to vote on this matter. I have a right to vote on this matter, Madam Chair.
Honorable, so far as this committee is concerned, there's a motion on the floor. We voted on the motion, and we have 7 yes and 7 no. We don't
Without
have
my vote?
Any abstention, and in view of that, the motion is lost on
one denial. Let the record bear this. Let the record be clear.
Result on the website of this.
Those were excerpts of what happened during the vetting in Parliament earlier today. Let's have a conversation on this development. And private legal practitioner Alexander Kumaban joins me for a conversation on this development. If you can hear me, sir, thank you very much for your time this evening. Well, we are able to speak to a private legal practitioner, Alexander Kumaban, as and when we get that conversation. He's actually on now. If you can hear me, thank you very much for your time, counsel, this evening.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Great. So what is your initial reactions to the concerns by the minority?
Good. Thank you very much. As a political party or as a minority, they will definitely be worried that it has become the lot of the president at this time and age to appoint members to the Supreme Court. Obviously, all the hullabaloo is not about the legal propriety, but it's more of a political matter because it is reasonably plausible to assume that a president who is making an appointment would definitely look for those who are politically aligned to his political persuasion. This is a political matter. And so that's why they are making all the calls. But the point is that they try to justify their political fight with some constitutional provisions, which to me do not have any application whatsoever in the appointment process. I think that my learned friend, Mahama Ayaga, was trying strenuously and swimming against the tide of precedent in the appointment process, that the time has come for the president to be guided by Article 296C. By this, he is calling for some kind of executive instrument or constitutional instrument to guide the appointment process. But I don't think Article 296C has within its contemplation the process of appointment of Supreme Court judges, which is clearly defined and given in Article 144 Clause 2. And so, for me, apart from its political significance, what they did in law was much ado about nothing.
So you agree with Mr. Mahama Yariga when he says that the president's decision to make this appointment is unconstitutional?
I do not agree with him.
Okay.
I do not agree with him at all, because
I'm asking this because you cited Article 296 Clause C.
I'm saying that in trying to back that call, they used Article 296 Clause C. And I'm saying that that provision in the Constitution has no application whatsoever in the appointment process, which is clearly spelled out in Article 144 Clause 2.
Right. So let's talk a bit about the timing. It's just about 4 months to the election. Do you think that it is one of the reasons the minority is not too pleased about this appointment?
If we go to that point, then I would say that it's a political matter. And so they would not be pleased. Because after all, once it is an opposition party, it means it is an alternative government, right? So they could consider themselves as government in waiting. And so if they come to parliament, if they come to power, how is the president who is yet to come going to exercise that right of appointing Supreme Court justices if that place is already fully populated, if I may put it that way? You see, if we are learning from the practices in the United States, you know that if President Trump, for instance, is going to appoint anybody, he's going to appoint Republicans. And there it is well known. If you are a Republican, it is known that you are a Republican. If you are a Democrat, it is known that you are a Democrat. In the case of Ghana, we have asked, by our constitutional structure and the way we go about things, we have asked our judges to, if I say, play the ostrich and also play some kind of sycophancy without necessarily showing where they belong. After all, they vote, right? And so that's why I said that if it's a matter of law, they have no leg to stand on. But if it's a matter of politics, one of the things would be that, hey, so this president is appointing everybody to the Supreme Court. By the time we come, they will still be young. Nobody will be going on retirement. How are we going to get our people there? That is what is animating this whole fight. But apart from its political significance, in terms of law, I don't think there is any problem about it, because
the Constitution is clear who must appoint the Supreme Court justices and the processes of the appointment. So that one, there's no problem about it.
Right.
The only thing we have to talk about is a matter of policy as we go along. Is it still feasible for the president to be given the carte blanche to appoint any time and any day? That one would be a call for constitutional amendment. So long as we have not done that, the president has the power to do so.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Lawyer Alexander Kojeku-Maban is a private legal practitioner.
Incredible.
You are still listening to Starr Today, and this is your 2024 election hub. It is now time to take you on the campaign trail. Good evening to you listening once again, and welcome to the campaign trail on EIB Election Hub. Remember, you are live in Accra on Starr 103.5 FM. Kumasi is Ultimate 106.9 FM. In Takrady, it is Empire 102.7 FM. We are also live in Zebila on Zebs FM 92.9. We're also streaming live on Facebook on Starr 103.5 FM. And around the world on starfm.com.gh. Welcome to the campaign trail. Tonight, we begin our journey in the Pon Katamanso constituency. Our guest this evening is the NPP's parliamentary candidate for the area, William Ofosu Asante. Your views and comments are welcome via WhatsApp on 055-288-0216. Again, 055-288-0216. This is the campaign trail. Thank you very much for your time this evening. You're still listening to Starr Today, and of course, this is the campaign trail. So, seated opposite me is the NPP's parliamentary candidate for the Pon Katamanso constituency, William Ofosu Asante. Mr. Asante, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
How are your constituents doing, first of all?
Yeah, I think we're all doing good. It's been an amazing journey, but everybody's doing okay.
Right. So, how have things been since you vied for this position?
It's been fascinating, interesting, and a bit exhausting, to be honest, because the people need so much representation, leadership. That is what we have been bereft of all these years. So yes, It's been exciting, it's been challenging, but it's also been very hectic and, of course, tiring.
When you say that the people need so much representation, is that not why they have a member of parliament?
Well, you can have it, but as to whether it's functionally sufficient, that's another level of discussion. So perfectly, I agree. We are represented in parliament by one man, but as to whether functionally we are having the representation that we queued on the December 7th of 2020 to vote to have, that is another level of discussion.
What are the deficits that you have identified with regards to your representation in parliament?
Of course.
Or even in the constituency?
We can look at it in different areas, but you would want to look at it in respect of the infrastructural deficits. You would also want to look at it in terms of how
when you talk about infrastructure deficits, are you looking at a specific area?
We're looking at roads, which is paramount of them all. We're also looking at educational facilities. We're looking at basic social amenities. We don't even have a sports center. This government has put up quite a number of astroturfs across the country.
So how come Ponkatamanso is missing out?
It's because somebody is not talking for us. Ordinarily, we have put one man to speak for all of us in the August House of Parliament. So you would expect that this person is very much in sync and in tune with the people in respect of their challenges and needs, and properly so represent them, because it's not about we getting excited with our MP riding in the V8 and having a police guard in his company. That doesn't excite anyone. What we need is that if we cry, we should be heard. If we want someone to send, our matters up for immediate redress, that should be done, and done in real time. And these, I believe, have been the difficulties that the constituents or residents of Ponkatamanso constituency have had to suffer over the years. And for 32 years, to think that we are one of the richest constituencies, that one of the biggest, actually now the most populous constituency in Ghana, to think that having the population size we now have, over 600,000 plus people, and having all the industries scattered around the constituency, you would have expected that for development would have been first on the list, but that is not the case, and everybody should be worried. And this is the picture.
You mentioned something I find interesting. So for the past 32 years, the NDC has dominated.
Absolutely.
Are you not worried that this may be an exercise in futility for you?
Interesting. Exercise in futility is just an imagination.
Okay.
But basically, somebody ought to look at the enormity of the task and ask who is better fit to represent it or do or take it up in responsibility. So it has become more like a lie that has normalized in the minds of people that Ponkatamanso is almost the preserve of the NDC. That is not true. That is not true by every estimate.
How do we know this is not true?
So
I mean,
if you
there's
go to
evidence
the
on the
poll,
ground since 1992. So
you call it evidence because statistically they have had, so that's more of a linear argument. But if you were to look at it in terms of the actuals, then you would come to terms with reality where, say, 100 people are to take a decision on who represents them. Then out of the 100, only 33 go to the poll to make that decision. The 33 obviously is in a minority in the face of the actuals. So if that 33% sufficiently over the years give you a certain result, linearly you would say that yes, it is because it is for 8 people. But if you look at it in terms of the actuals, just opposing all the facts together, then you would come to the point that it's been a minority decision for all these years. And the day that majority would wake up and walk to the poll, we should be seeing a different picture.
Right.
And this is very reflective in the demography if you were to interrogate the facts. And so, yes, that is our picture.
So are you trying to tell me that since 1992, the voters have been largely NDC and they constitute the minority?
I wouldn't say they constitute minority.
Okay.
I'd rather say that it's been more of a minority decision having to represent the entirety of the constituency. So yes, fewer people have walked up to the poll to make the decision, and it has resulted in a certain as it were, representation. But you get a clearer picture.
So, I mean, you're also trying to say that that is the reason the NPP has barely made 50% in that constituency.
Absolutely, yes.
Right.
Yes. And also, you would want to look at the qualitative. Who have we put up to be voted for? What work did they do? But that is not my headache for now. I have had to do that homework to come to this point where I am convinced that with the efforts that we are putting in and with the feedback and responses that we are getting from the constituents, it's going to be a very different story this time around.
So what is your headache now?
My headache?
Yeah.
In terms of what exactly?
In terms of your leadership in the Pun-Katamanso area.
No, I only want everybody to come on board to make that decision so that it's more collective, it's more representative, because this is democracy. You cannot have the eligible set, we're talking 18 years and above. You cannot have maybe in excess of 400,000 people who are 18 and above. And then you go to the poll and only 91,000, less than a quarter. You're talking less than 25% going to cast their ballot.
Is there voter apathy?
It's a mix of different factors.
What are some of these factors that you're talking about?
One of the factors is that we are surrounded by a lot of constituencies.
Okay.
I think we are bordered by about 8 constituencies. And these constituencies, so we are a classical example of a peri-urban constituency. We are surrounded by the likes of Adenta, Medina, Ashaman, the Tema East, the Tema West, even the Tema Central area by technical implication because of how the proximity. You're also looking at the rural urban migration. So people do live in the constituency. They owe their responsibility in terms of the voting to their mother constituencies where they migrated for. That's one part. The other part is that it's linearly very vast. And so if you're walking from the southern part and here to put it in proper context, the northern part, down to the southern part where the EC headquarters is. And then we have had to undertake, let's say, a registration activity, and you create congestion in Katamanso. Already we are oversubscribed in numbers, we are too large in land size. And people have to walk through Ashaman to the EC center at Boom and go queue for, say, a day 2 or 3. Whereas there is a machine sitting in Ashaman with nobody in line to, get registered. And these persons have also come from the very same Ashaman. I mean, they will so conveniently go back to wherever they must have come from. That is why you see the Ashaman numbers, the people who vote in Ashaman are way more than they're eligible. But the people who vote in Pun-Katamanso are way less. So you see it, Ashaman, Medina, and Adenta, you see an oversubscription. But when you come to Pun-Katamanso, you see an undersubscription. And when EC is even deploying their machines, they will still consider Ashaman for the volume of the voters rather than for the volume of the eligibles. So these are technical things that, if you ask me, coming from a more technocrat point of view, we should realign things so that we get a better representation of the people. And we cannot continue to do politics as usual, business as usual, and expect that we'll be better represented and therefore, implicitly, of course, drive development.
Right. Since we are talking about the factors that may have hindered your constituents from voting largely, when I was reading about Pun-Katamanso, one of the things that I noticed was that over the period, the people that have been voted for seem to be residents in that constituency. And to a very large extent, they are Gans.
So they are not resident. They are, you call it indigents.
Indigents, I beg
so
your
these
pardon.
are primarily, but even the current MP is
So,
not a full indigent.
Right, but don't you think they may also identify with such people more?
That's why I said that. Unless we are interrogating the very facts, each for their specific or uniqueness, then you will be able to come to terms with what should be rather than what it is. So it could also be by dint of coincidence that the two sides have put up gas to be voted for. So if you have a sample space of 2 gas and you have to select one, it will obviously become a gas.
So that for you has been the issue?
It's part of the issue, but there are still many other issues.
Right.
So predominantly, starting from 1992, when we first started voting, where the population was not as large and where the GA numbers were pretty larger, or perhaps largest then, you would have had, of course, GA stepping up. And because the land belongs to them, it is their land. So you have a better representation from them. But as we speak today, The Ghana.
Do you think the dynamics may have changed a bit?
It's not may have changed. The dynamics have changed, and the
Okay.
data is there to speak to it.
Okay.
Because you're talking about they now being the third in terms of numbers. Respectfully, they are still the big boys and big girls in town. But yes, we're talking representation, and you would want to
Move
have,
away from
yes,
tribe. Right.
yes, because everybody has a vote, and the vote is equal in the quality and of course the weight. So yes, we have had GANs, but how many non-GANs have we even put up as MPP? I guess I'm the second non-GAN apart from Hobson. And so, yes, this is where we are. It doesn't have to be a tribal discussion. It's got to be a discussion of who better quality-wise
I mean,
represent the
since you
people.
are there, I just wanted to find out if that has played a role over the period.
Yes, it has,
Right.
but among many other factors. And therefore, we should be true to the facts so that we can speak to it
Okay.
and educate our listeners.
Okay. Let's now talk about Pon Katamanso properly. So it's dominated by fishing and farming. In your engagements, did you engage some of these persons? I mean, away from all of the industries that have been set up there.
If you see, even the discussion of the dominance being fishing and farming is a bit far from reality.
Okay.
Because the fisher folks are
So you
along
think
there.
it is a more industrial constituency?
It's more peri-urban.
Peri-urban.
Yes. So we have everything.
But there are
in
fisher
Pokemon.
folk and
yes,
there are lots of farmers
definitely
in
they are.
there.
But to put them in the majority
Okay.
in terms of their trade would be a bit erroneous.
Okay.
Because we have a chunk of our people being in the civil service, being in the trade business, and of course the fishers are there, the farmers are also there. But the numbers are there. You can pull it up from the internet, and you would see that it doesn't exactly state that is the majority. Yeah.
But I'm asking because I want to know if in your engagement, if you have spoken to these number of people.
Yes, we speak to a diverse base, so it includes, of course, the
So
fisher folks.
when it comes to the fisher folk, what have they been telling you?
Oh, so you're talking about they basically want to do their business in peace, have when they go to sea, bring back their fish and have their peace of mind to sell it.
So what have been the issues that have confronted them? That is what I want to know.
Oh, I haven't really. The last bit that I had to address in my person was where the sea had to, in quote, had to be closed.
Okay.
You know, the 1 month period. And then they had some reservations because last year some rice and other things were shared. And so they drew my attention. But I have asked that they give me time. I'll speak to the fisheries minister. But that is yet to happen because he was out of the country. I mean, she was out of the country at the time. But, I mean, far away from it, there are way different issues affecting different people because of the demography we
Right.
have in the constituency.
Have
So,
they also raised issues about accessibility to premix fuel?
and not that has come to my attention. You know, there is a committee, and don't forget that there is also the municipal assembly that is very much at the heart of some of these discussions. And what I have done in my person is to separate the lines. So
you leave some of these issues strictly to the
no,
NC?
I wouldn't say that. But if it calls for our attention, we'll come in and address it. But I would not play octopus and seek to speak to every issue unless it has come up. Because this is a very heavily urbanized constituency with over 600,000 people, different sects of people, different social and ethnic backgrounds. So you are talking about a myriad of issues. So you would want to speak to them as and when. And of course, we like to speak to them research-based.
Right.
Yes, exactly. And some of the issues, I mean, coming to the studio, I didn't really apprise myself pretty well on some of the technical issues because these are more technical. And then if you have studied my line of campaigning, I like to be as technical, I like to be as precise. So if it has to come to the point where technocrats or people with the mandate have to do the interrogation, I will not play Superman in that regard. Mine is to play leadership. That is what I'm aspiring for.
We'll switch a bit. What about the nature of your roads? They are
Terrible.
hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of
You're
roads that
talking
are
thousands
of kilometers of roads that have been a sort of challenges to the people.
Yeah, that is a big one. And I would say that past persons who have represented us, and of course the sitting one, they should take all the blame and the responsibility. Because I put you there, you have to tell a story to the people, those that matter, so that they can address our needs and challenges. You don't speak, you come back with excuses, then for goodness sake, why did we take you there?
So you think the problem has persisted because your representatives have not performed?
are we different from those constituencies that have performed better in terms of development? Is it the case that we don't vote in terms of the numbers? Is it the case that we don't even show up to vote? Because we are, at the last I checked, we were like around 2020, we were about number 14 in terms of the constituency with the biggest votes. Number 14 constituency, and we have been short of anything.
Right.
I wouldn't say sideline, because to say sideline means that clearly somebody who knows that they have to take care of you have decided to ignore. But we're talking about when you have not made a case for yourself, when you have lied to yourself with reality, and then now actual reality is catching up on you, you would not call that being sidelined. So we have had 16 years of MPP, 16 years of NDC. Even MPP is not up to 16. We're talking about maybe three quarters of the 16th year. And we have not seen any development. In fact, even the MPP has done quite well because we've done quite a number of things. But
what has
all
the
in
MPP
all,
done?
of course, we constructed the agenda one. We've had our own share of it. A very beautiful edifice. You should come by
Your
to see it.
hospital is ready.
Oh, mine, it's very beautiful. And
Has
and
it
to
started-
think that this is a constituency that has should I say, voted for the MPP. To see this level of investment, that for me is significant. Just last week, the president was in town to commission the Tutuwaa stretch. So the Adenta Tutuwaa Road, a dual carriage, under construction. You can talk about the Tema Aflawo stretch, under construction, the Cosmo stretch, under construction. And to think that this constituency has not voted for the MPP before, but yet has seen so much under the MPP,
But they don't
that
have to
doesn't
necessarily
really add up.
vote for the MPP
No,
to
that is
enjoy.
where I'm bringing in the discussion that if it were an issue of being sidelined, then we haven't been in regard to the current administration. But suffice to say, we have had 32 years of leadership in parliament or representation in parliament, yet we haven't seen anything. And I ask the question, simply put, why? What? How are we any different from Tema Central? They have also voted. Ayawaso West Wagon, they have also voted. Domi Kwabenya, they have also voted. So how come we don't have any development? We should be speaking to our leaders and asking them questions. Because this has been the same government, but you haven't had the development you require. Somebody is drawing it to his constituency. You haven't drawn enough to your constituency. And then you sit back and want to blame the central government. I'm sorry, but the central government doesn't wake up in the morning from wherever, be it the Jubilee House or wherever, and come to work in the constituency, identifying your problems and challenges. Somebody that you put up there should know your challenges, should talk to you. And then when this information is collated, he takes it up, strategically decide on what he or she wants to address. And for 32 years, nobody has talked your matter for you, and we are excited about it. To say that it is the preserve of the NDC, that for me is a problem. It's neither MPP nor NDC. We should be talking about who we put right there.
Right.
I would say that MPP and NDC in itself may not be a problem, but the people who make it up may be the ones that are the problem. So in Katamanso, I would not even want to blame the NDC, even though in part I blame them because they have also had their share, of course, for all the goodies that the constituency has done to the party. I would have expected that they would have done more, but unfortunately we didn't see that.
So how soon do you think, or do you expect this hospital that you talk about to be commissioned and operationalized?
It is not in my place to tell because we're talking about a bigger discussion, and I like to stay real because I would have to. It's an issue of administrative procedure.
Right. So if your constituents met you and said, "Oh, I have seen this beautiful edifice being put up. We are in dire need of health facilities. When is it going to be ready?" What is the ideal response you'd give that constituent?
No, so we don't have a clear timeline, but we are anticipating.
Have you tried to find out?
Of course. But
What
we should
has been the
see.
response that you've been
We are
getting?
hoping to get it commissioned into full force before December. But it's not because of politics. It's rather because of the administrative issues you have to deal with. So you're talking equipment, you're talking about staffing. And these are more administrative issues that I will not want to rush into.
Okay,
to
but
make determinations on.
how ready is this facility in terms of percentage? Are you able to quantify?
I would have to check that because I like to speak to specifics.
When was the last time you visited the facility?
No, I don't need to. It's within the Pong area, so if you have to drive by, you would see it beautifully
Okay, so
sitting
when was
there.
the last time you saw it?
This should be less than a month.
Okay.
And of course, the structure is all done. The equipments are fitted, but we have to wait for the administrative work to be done. And we are more in a hurry. The government is more in a hurry to commission it, because why delay? There's more political points if we are to commission it. So we are more in a hurry than the people are in need of it. Trust me.
Right. Is it the first political portfolio that you are occupying?
So, yes, precisely, because I gave it a shot in 2019, myself and Hobson at the time. He prevailed, of course. And then I had to come back stronger and better.
Okay.
So
what do you think were your mistakes that made Hobson win over you?
Purely, come on, inexperience. I mean, the man beat me to experience at the time, and I'll be honest with it. Because it was my first shot, and I came in barely a month to... about 2 months to the election, so I had not prepared enough.
If you were not prepared, what
no. If I say prepared enough, it's a big discussion. Because, come on, after the match, you will begin to see where your excesses, your mistakes were.
But before politics, what were you doing?
Interesting. So
what are you doing?
I've been with the National Malaria Elimination Program.
So you are into health?
Support staff, technically, yes.
Right.
National Malaria Elimination.
Right.
And I've been, so my background, I did mathematics from Care University.
Okay.
Later to do supply chain management, Coventry, a few certificates here and there. I'm a project manager, and quite a number of certificates across the country.
You're not joking.
Yeah.
But I mean, we are gearing up for the elections already. How do you think your expertise will support the people there?
It's already started supporting them.
Tell us how.
So I approach it more from the data point of view.
Okay.
And you see, there is something about the NPP administration. If you can speak your data well, you will get ahead. The right audience will be granted. Because you don't go, everybody, 275, everybody is asking for something to go back to their people. You go there and you just ask because everybody is asking. Then it means that you'll be put in the general pool. But if you go and you start speaking to specifics, then you would require some specific attention, which is what I think we have started enjoying. So because I started talking, even though I'm not a people's representative, we have seen some reshaping and some grading works already ongoing in the constituency. And I know that...
Which areas?
Oh, the Gwichley side has seen it. The Santos side has seen it. Okay. We started from the main road. But we also waiting. We have different, strategies in place, with different plans in place, hoping to roll them out. And, it's tricky. It's tricky in the sense that sometimes when you even mean well and you want to do the job, people think you're doing it for political expediency. So your timing is important as the work you're doing. And so this is where we are. I mean well, I wish to do well, but you have to be politically right with your timing. But to say that my expertise is coming to bear on the development of the people, yes, it has already started. I like it from data. I like it from quality representation. So I have been doing more of education when I go around there. That even if you think I'm not good enough, have your reason to vote against me.
Okay.
And if you think I'm good enough, have your reason to vote for me. But don't just vote for me because you are NPP or you are NDC. Don't just vote for me because you think he's a nice man. Some even think, yes, my wife is an Ewe, a pure Votarian from Akachi. So some would definitely vote for me because of that. But suffice to say that's a good one. I mean, I would enjoy it. But still, I want to educate the people that if you get it right, then we can collectively get it right. And so people ought to go to the poll and vote right, not just vote because they are NDC, not just vote because they are NPP. And this education for me is more of like a commission. It's my God-given assignment. And I want to do it for the people so that we can come together. Even the constituents, we can do so much for ourselves. Granted that we have the right leadership and the right structure in place, we are able to do so much for ourselves. But that is what we have not had.
We are about ending this segment, but briefly, tell the people of Punkatamanso why William is the ideal choice as compared to Joseph.
Because William understands the tax, the enormity, the challenge. That's point one. And because William has some good ideas, some good strategies that when we put in place, we are able to start getting better.
What are
I understand the
challenges that I'm sure your people want to know?
No, that's what I talked about. You see, it's in two parts. There is a part that we draw from the central government, and there is a part that we can do for ourselves under good leadership. And that's what I'm promising. I can draw more from the central government, giving the nod, And I can also do a bit of the local strategy, the local solutions, which I have already started and which we have started seeing its fruits in the areas of the Gbechile, a few other areas. The Santor stretch we have recently graded. The Gbechile has been graded. We are touching the Calypso Road. And we will be doing all of these in a manner that will be, should I say, reflective of the people's challenges. So it doesn't have to be because I come from the middle belt area, the Gbechile, Mishakamp, Kakasnanka, Bethlehem side. I should concentrate all the development there. Those in the northern belt should also see the Oibi stretch. Those in the southern belt, I have already initiated works on their water problem, and the Ghana Water has promised that, in fact, they have had to do some feasibility study, and they have promised that they will be we'll be seeing some good news pretty soon. So these are things that we have started, even though we have elections to concentrate on primarily. So William is a leader you can trust, very honest, straightforward to the point, no embellishment. I say it as it is because that is what leadership should be interested in. And of course, I am also a part of the youth who constitute over 70% of the total population. And so being a youth myself, I understand the youth difficulties, challenges, and sure would be able to represent them in that regard. So a lot of other things. Of course, the people of Pom Katamanso should be expectant of something good come 2025 onwards, because the leadership that we have not had in all the years gone by, we should have them by 2025 if William Ofosu Asante is given the nod.
Right. Briefly, all of these processes that you have started, where is the source of funding?
No, that's, if you heard me well, these are not things that I'm funding from my pocket.
Okay.
These are things that we are the two-factor approach from the central government,
and from,
largely. And then the bit of
level.
the local level, what we can do for ourselves. So an industry would say, okay, I'm able to support
so you're
you.
Getting sponsorship from some people?
Of course,
okay.
Of course. Yeah. And this is good. You know, there are people out there who wish to do a lot of these things, but our leaders have not told the story as they should. In fact, they don't know reality. So you don't know my problems. How do you diagnose it, to be able to prescribe medication? You ought to know the problem, that you can make your prescription.
Right. Thank you very much for your time this evening. You've been hearing William Ofosu Asante, the NPP's parliamentary candidate for the Pon Katamanso area, telling us why the people of Pon Katamanso should vote for him. Thank you once again for coming. It's been a pleasure. Now, before we wrap up on the campaign trail this evening, it's been 24 hours since the NDC announced its no-fees stress policy aimed at reliving fresh entrants into tertiary institutions from paying academic fees. In the aftermath, there have been varied reactions to the promise, with some questioning the basis of such a promise amidst the tight fiscal space the country has had in these times. Starr News' Elik Blim Ewuku comes through with a wrap of what has happened since the announcements.
We realized that with the substitution of teacher trainee allowances with student loans, we could increase the capacity of the colleges of education to take in more students.
That was former President John Dramani Mahama in 2016, staunchly defending his decision on the non-payment of teacher trainee allowances. Just 3 months later, despite being in a comfortable lead, he lost the 2016 elections. Many critics point to this decision as a significant contributing factor. Fast forward to 2024, the NDC is now advocating free tuition for first-year students in public tertiary institutions, i.e. universities, and teacher and nursing training colleges. Stakeholders are questioning how this policy will be implemented. The NDC's Deputy National Youth Organizer, Osman Ayariga, assures that the party has a solid plan.
If you are able to cut expenditure in most of the places that there's wastage, we should be able to run this government. You do not need to be wasting so much money in all of these sectors. Talk about government machinery, talk about corruption, talk about other ministries that are overspending.
Unsurprisingly, the NPP does not agree. A member of the NPP's communication team, Ishaq Ibrahim, claims this is merely a gimmick.
Because they want to underfund them. They will promise. If for some reason they happen to come to government, they will promise, they will underfund first year, pretending it's free. Meanwhile, there is no quality.
But what do stakeholders think of this proposal? Divine Pei, head of programs at the education think tank, Africa Education Watch, suggests that the plan needs fine-tuning. Meanwhile, the president of the National Union of Graduate Students, NUGS, Daniel Opongchireme demands a comprehensive plan.
I'll say it's thoughtful, but yet again, the caveat is that we don't need to implement this on a wholesale note.
Something of this sort is being carried out. I think the student front could have been consulted so that at a point we could also tender in our recommendations and also questions.
Ultimately, the decision lies with the electorate. Whether the NDC can sway public opinion will be reviewed on 7th January 2025.
You're still listening to Starr Today here on Starr FM. Up next is sport with my colleague Benjamin Yama. Bengazi, good evening.
Good evening to you, Tutuwaa. And in sports, now coach of Azakes ladies, Emmanuel Kwesi-Mensah, says he's optimistic of an improvement in performance of his team against Edo Queens of Nigeria on Wednesday in the CAF Women's Champions League qualifiers. The Secondary-based team played out a goalless draw against Burkina Faso's Omni Sport in Group B in this year's Waffle Zone B qualifiers for the Champions League. Azakes ladies are aiming to replicate the kind of form that got them finishing second behind Sundowns in their previous or first instance of playing in the Champions League. Now, speaking in an interview ahead of the game, Coach Mensah is optimistic his team will improve in their game against Edo Queens tomorrow in Bouaké, Ivory Coast.
Well, we're already in competition season, so for me, I think that we will have to be very competitive even during the training. And looking at today's training, I can see that the girls actually gave their 100% effort right from the warm-up stage to the last stage, which was more of the tactical bits. We're very competitive. That is the standard of Azakes. I always say it's result-oriented, and so we are ever ready for the game tomorrow. For competition, always the start looks a bit tricky. And you can also expect that there will be one or two players that will be a bit tensed up. And so now that the competition fever already is on us, I'm seeing that the girls are in very high spirit. And besides the mistakes that we did in the first game, we have looked forward to correcting them. And we are seeing more of improved performance in the game against Edo Queens.
And that was coach of Azakes ladies. Still with some news on the local front. The Ghana's contingent for the 2024 Paralympic Games in Paris has arrived in the country of France ahead of the games. The global event will see Ghana's competing in 4 disciplines, including para-athletics, para-powerlifting, para-cycling, and para-taekwondo for the 10-day event, which runs from August 28th to September 8th of this year. Now, as part of measures to ensure the team acclimatizes ahead of the games, the team arrived on Tuesday morning for a pre-game training camp in Ganneville between August 13 and 21 before moving to the Games Village for the games on 28th of this month. Now, led by the Chief of Mission, Henry Labi, the team is made up of 6 athletes, 3 coaches, 3 athlete aides, 1 physiotherapist, 1 accreditation liaison officer, and 1 MPC secretary who was with the team. Now, the national that's it for the Paralympic sports beginning 28th of this month. Ghana's team arriving in Paris for the games. So once the main Olympians failed us, perhaps the Paralympians will make us proud in these upcoming games. The last one, and the national arm wrestling team, the Golden Arms, will represent Ghana at the upcoming World Arm Wrestling Championship to be held in Moldova from August 15 25 this year. Now, the team Ghana, made up of African Games double gold medalist Grace Minta of Ghana Police Service, Edward Yamwa Asamoah of Ghana Immigration Service, Blessing Abeka Nunu, Godwin Saki, who are both for the Ghana Immigration Service. Now, they will be accompanied by officials Hussein Akwete Adi, Ni Otu Lakai, and then Abigail Frema as officials of the team. The Ghanaian team have targeted winning laurels at the World Championship after their impressive performance in African Games held here in Ghana in March of this year. That should be it for our sports.
Right. Thank you very much, Bengazi, for those sports updates. But before we go, in 2019, President Akufo-Addo promised to build a bridge linking Dambai to other towns in the Oti region. Has that promise been fulfilled? This Thursday, we will delve into the issue.
By the 4th quarter of this year, construction of the bridge over Oti region will have begun.
It was a promise that sparked hope across the Oti region, one that the president reaffirmed
I am determined and I've made the promise and I am going to see to it it is done.
Your name will be engraved in letters of gold in the annals of the Oti region.
Local legacy, it is going to be my legacy for this region, Oti Bridge. Yes, amen.
But is it destined to remain a dream? Stay tuned for Peter Kwawa Adato's in-depth report on the Dambai Oti Bridge.
We will bring you details of that report on this Thursday. Make a date with us. And that is how we end this edition of Starr today. Thank you very much for your company. For more news updates, log on to starfm.com.gh. I am Tutuwaa Danso, and of course, this production was led by my colleague, my boss, Edem Kujo, Benjamin Saki, Prince ACN, and Emmanuel Donko. Made sure this bulletin was streamed. We'll be back tomorrow, same time. Have a good evening.